Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next episode of Scripting the Book. I have Natalie here with me. Ben is on, I don't know what Ben's doing, but he's
It's
like, he had
something
something
with
this week.
running, I'm sure.
Yes, I think
Like a
so.
marathon.
So hopefully he's having a great time and doing well. But this was well planned in advance, so he let us know that he was not going to be here for this one. But Natalie and I are like, we got this.
Oh yeah, we got this. We were already talking backstage. Like
Yeah.
I was a little worried, but no, we don't worry. There will be no dead air.
There will be no dead air. Yeah. Yeah, because this was not in my normal genre, but
Yeah.
kept me entertained and
You're welcome.
invested. So
This was my vote, my pick,
this was Natalie.
suggestion, and you're welcome.
Yes. Natalie's like, how about Bullet Train? And I was like, was that a book? Literally.
And it was
I had no
before the
idea.
movie came out. We added to the list. They were like, well, we want to make sure the movie's out because we definitely wanted the movie to be out long enough to let everyone have access to it without having to buy a movie ticket because we don't want that.
Yeah. And this one is available. You can rent it or purchase it on Amazon Prime. So if we go through this and you're like very interested, you can get it there. If you don't have a Netflix subscription, but if you've got Netflix, you're good to go.
Yeah. Also, I think any of those other ones, like I think I saw it on HBO Max originally or something. Like when
I think I did too.
But my point is that there's, trust me, there's options, non-payment options if you're already subscribed, which technically you're paying, but we don't view it that way. Yeah. We're not paying for the individual movie, at least in those instances.
So. And we have some friends here, so let's say hello real quick. Hello to Dreaming Truth. I am doing well. Very excited to talk about this. Hello, Joanne. How are you doing? Nicole, good morning. Good morning. I hope everybody's having a great time. And we also have some lurkers in the room. So enjoy, sit back. If you're just here to just listen to our thoughts on Bullet Train, we're happy to have you, of course.
And I'm glad to see Dreaming Truth. That the first time I saw them was yesterday during the Writertown Junction, and welcome to the group. Yeah. I don't know if you had a name change or something, and this is your first time into like AuthorTube or something, but this is just another branch of the ever expansive tree.
Yes.
And we do this monthly. And don't worry, at the end we'll wrap up and let you know the future books and movies or shows that we're going to do, so that way you can read it and join us in the chat with it.
We have a very busy summer coming up, and when I tell you do not have to read everything or watch everything, that's fine. Just read and watch whatever you can and come join us for the chatting.
Yeah. If you don't finish it, still join us, because so we did Dune and I didn't finish the book. I couldn't. I did it. I did watch the movie at least. So it's okay. We welcome everyone. We've had other talks where we just we're on the fence about it and stuff, of not liking it, and it's okay. We're here for that conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And especially with the ones that we have coming up, I'm sure that there will be some not finishes just because of the amount. And so I'll be like, it's a DNFing because we don't like it, or are we DNFing because there just wasn't enough time, but you're really excited to continue on? So I'm here for all of the conversations.
Yeah. And for now, though, we'll focus on Bullet Train, which is the subject. Bullet Train is a book written by Kotaro Isaka. And I forget when it was published, but it's nice when the book and the movie have the exact same title, because then you don't have to adjust things. I actually read the book first, and then I watched the movie. What did you do, Nia?
I did the movie first because I didn't know it was a book.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, do you want to watch this? And I was like, oh, how bloody is this going to be? He's like, pretty bloody, but I heard it was also going to be funny. So I was like, okay, so I'll have the humor to kind of balance out my,
That's, since it's been a while since I watched a few author tubers who were talking about the difference between the book and the movie to kind of catch up for this. And they were talking about how the blood and gore was offset by the comedy. Like, it's so much blood and gore that it's almost comedic. And so it's not, if you're squeamish, there might be like moments of where you're like, oh God, but it's offset. It's not like watching Saw or Hostel or anything like that. I will.
Yes.
So just that disclaimer.
All right.
So
now that you know, hang on really quick. Now that you know what we're going to be talking about, I'm going to let Natalie do a quick intro.
Oh yeah,
she is linked below. And again, we have another co-host, Ben, who can't be here, who is also linked below. And then I'll do a quick intro, and then we will go spoiler free on the book, spoiler free on the movie, and then back into all of it, just so that you guys kind of know how the rundown's going to go. So that was the intro to what we're talking about today. And now intro to Natalie.
Yes, I am Natalie Locke. You can find me on YouTube, all the social media under Natalie Locke or Writer Locke. And when I say Locke, it's Locke with an E at the end. But my website, natalielockeBooks.com, is linked to all my social media. You can see a few of my flashes that I've written, a few ideas, because I'm not published yet, but a few summaries of the manuscripts I've written and future ideas that I have, as well as I have a monthly newsletter on that website. For content, right now I'm focused on flash fiction every single Saturday at 8:30, either on my channel or my co-host channel, Chandra Arthur. We pick apart flash fiction. We have a editing session of one of the 250 flashes that I created. She created some with me over a year and 2 months. And then we have a random prompt where it's anything and everything. It could be have your significant other take a picture with no prompt, and then the picture itself is a prompt. Ginger and I ended up switching our pictures that our significant others took, which actually worked out better, and it was really interesting. But this whole idea of you can get inspiration to write anywhere. And that's me in a nutshell. Oh, I'm also a full-time employee and a parent. You might see my son pop up at some point. Luckily, we're past the stage where he climbs on top of the table. There's been times in live streams where he's walking across the table, and I'm like, what are you doing? And that's really funny when I'm looking at some old videos, and I'm like, he was so tiny.
I know. I always tell Natalie that it reminds me of one of my sons who would do that exact same thing.
Yeah. I know people talk about like gender and everything, and I know that's a hot topic, but like my son, stigma of a boy, like this boy will jump off the back of a couch, like to the floor, like not off the back of the couch to the floor, I mean over the seat to the floor in front of the couch. Like I'm just like, why? And stuff. And he's already had stitches, no broken bones yet. I mean, he swallowed a screw. So I woke up to an x-ray because I was traveling for work. I woke up to an x-ray to a screw in his stomach. And I'm like, what the hell? I can't travel ever again for work.
Yeah. So I have 2 boys, and I have one that's like that. And then I have the one boy who likes to read, and it's much calmer. Just like,
that's my daughter. My daughter likes to read. She's into it. And she always wants to go read books, but she's 12. So she's at that stage where she can start reading mature things, but not quite. Like certain things I'm just not okay with yet. But at a certain point, I mean, she might as well read it.
You'll know when she's ready. You'll know.
Yeah.
That's how I did with my kids. I'm like, not this one, not yet, but give this one another year or 2. And
we try to read the books ahead of time for her.
We did. We're the same.
Or look up any details about it. But either way, that's my long intro. Nia, your intro.
And I am Nia, the Vixen of Fiction, all over the interweb. I stream on Tuesday nights with writing sprints, actually productivity. So anything that you're doing, because I love reading, I love crafting, journaling, all that stuff. And I stream on Twitch at noon on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then Sundays in the evening, late evenings after 8:30 usually. So you can catch me over on Twitch, catch me on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. Follow me in all the places. I'm a mom of 4 and a Loki mom and a wife and a fitness instructor and doing all the things.
All of the things. Like when people say like, Natalie, you do so much, I'm like, Nia does more.
But my kids are older, so that kind of
mine are 5 and 12, so I'm still in that they need me stage, whereas
that doesn't end. It's just a different need.
It's just a
different need. They need your money in your car now when they're teenagers and older.
Well, my daughter still needs my money and my car, but I'm driving it. She's like, can you drop me? Can you take my friend and me to the mall? No, first off, you're not just going to walk around the mall. You're going to ask for things. I know you are. And we're moving. I'm moving in like a month. So you will see all of that's behind me change at some point. So
yes.
Yeah. Either way. So the book.
This is the book. Are you ready? We're going to do and if you've read the book. If you've read the book and you want to do this along with us, go right ahead. We are going to do our dislike, neutral, like, or love. So on the book, dislike, neutral, like, I'm a neutral to like.
I'm like a like love.
And Natalie is a like love. All right. So let's get into it. What are our thoughts on the book? So I will say I'm a neutral to like because the book got me invested in the characters, but it's just so outside of my normal genre that I really had to like, at least in the beginning, force myself to want to read it. I'm like, there's, if I'm reading something that's contemporary, it's usually a contemporary romance. But what I normally like to read is fantasy, and sci-fi. So I want other things and not necessarily murder.
So you and I are a little opposite.
It had some hurdles to get me to neutral in the first place. So that's why I'm a neutral to like. So it got me over the hurdle and was inching me over to the like side. How about you, Natalie?
I definitely was like to love. I like contemporary. I usually actually don't pay attention much to sci-fi and fantasy and stuff. I mean, I'll still consume it. I've read like Song of Ice and Fire. I've read the Shadow and Bone series. Like, I mean, I've read it, but I like character-driven stories, and Bullet Train is very character-driven. It is every character. The reason I liked it is, even though it was a lot of characters, not as many as Game of Thrones, right. And it wasn't from their point of view, but it was a lot of characters, and they were so, each one had a different motivation, and you could see it, as well as the evolution of that motivation changing, because more information was provided for the characters. And so I definitely like to love, like, everyone had distinct voices and mannerisms and quirks. So yeah, like this is a tease, but I almost thought maybe I should watch Thomas the Tank Engine after. Like, I understood the references, but at the same time I was like, maybe I should watch this, but at the same time I'm careful what I watch around my son, because if he likes it, I'll be watching it every single day for like the next few months. So
like with my oldest son, who ended up trains being one of his favorite toys.
And my son already likes trains.
Had a train whistle. Your son doesn't need a train whistle.
No,
the whole 9 yards. So I knew all the references, even though I never like watched.
Yeah, I got most of them, like Percy and Diesel. Like, I definitely understood those, and it almost makes me think: did the author like have these characters in mind, like the train characters in mind, and make the characters after the trains, or was it they were making this story and they go, wait a second, this is kind of like it was like watching Thomas the Tank Engine with their kid and going, wait a second, these characters are kind of like the ones I'm writing about. I just wonder, that's my curiosity. I would love how movies have a making of. I would love for books to have a making of sometimes. But
I would be fascinated to see how he chose Thomas the Tank Engine to be Lemon's quirk, kind of, that thing that, we all know those people who are like one tracked, like no matter what you're talking about, they can always bring it back to that thing that they love. so much. And so this was Lemon. So we have our characters, which is what one of the things that helped push this over the hump from being a neutral into a like Natalie was saying. Just it's very character driven. So the pew pew, all the shooting and bullets and all that stuff kind of at times would fade into the background because the characters were so interesting. And I would say that the twins, Lemon and Tangerine, were two of my favorite characters. I did love these are mostly assassins, whether they're actively in the mercenaries, assassins, whether they're or like Nanu normally would do petty stuff, but always ended up somehow usually killing people. Even though he's like, I'm a snatch and grab kind of guy, is what he wants to be doing, but he always ends up in crazy circumstances because we've got Nanu, who is perpetually inundated with bad luck. Yes. Kamaru, who is a drunk, but he's also a father, and the way that he gets entangled into this relationship with the prince, it's all very interesting. Their characters, they're all very, very different. So if you are looking to really work on developing characters, this is probably a good one. Especially characters that we don't normally write necessarily, because what is it like to live with actually believing in your heart of hearts, believing in your soul that you have bad luck, like just like everything you do, you don't even want to make the decisions. Nano doesn't even want to make decisions because he's like, whatever I decide, it's going to be the wrong choice.
Yeah, like I would say it's like pessimism becoming like nihilist or something. Yes. Like it's just you just stopped caring, like accepting the bad luck and going, it's this way it is.
Yeah. And Kimaru, the son, not so there's Kimaru, the grandson. I'm just gonna call him grandson, son, and grandfather. So the one who's actively getting himself into this situation. He's drunk all the time. I think he's trying to quit. He's a mess. So you kind of have this situation where, he's barely holding it together, and he's drawn into this situation because of the prince, who is a teenager, who is a sociopath,
probably even psychopath,
probably a psychopath, because he gets people
he incites violence, but he doesn't do the violence himself.
Yes, but
so
he studies people's mind. He's a people watcher, a people studier. He reads a lot, and so he's into the psychology of how to control people, basically. And he's a kid. He thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and
probably a sophomore. Why is
yeah, and he has found a way to absolutely manipulate kids his own age. But when he can draw that out and manipulate teachers, I mean, it's just like the most fascinating and wonderful thing to him. So not only is he manipulating kids to do bad things, and then not even probably delivering on any of the promises. He's like, once you get them started, it's just snowballs. And so he has this fascination. He's ruined kids' lives. He's ruined teachers' lives. And he's getting these kids to do it.
Yeah.
And loving it.
Yeah, it's you in the book, you get the fear of the kids. Like they fear him, the prince, but yet the prince has technically never done anything, just ordered everyone to do it. And just to have that power is interesting, especially because if you compare it to the big bad guy, also called the White Death, it's that person is feared because they actually did stuff. The prince did not. Hasn't done stuff, just like convinced people to do stuff, and then ended up in this like power. Like the psychology of it is interesting. I think the psychology of this book would be interesting for anyone. and stuff. But like, it's because really what makes this book a good book is the characters and how developed each character is.
Yes.
I would say, no matter how small they are.
Yeah. I feel like that even with Tangerine and Lemon, who are the twins, who aren't actually twins, they're very, very different. But you see that they're still killers. And yet you end up, in many ways, even in the book, you're kind of rooting for them. Like, you don't hate them. Especially Lemon with his talking about Thomas, Thomas the engine.
The tank
and
engine.
You're just
Yeah.
like, you're still a mercenary assassin.
But it's this like fully well-rounded characters, not just one-dimensional. Like, he's a killer, but he also like lives life in a philosophy based off a kid's show. Everything. And I would even argue, like, so Lemon and Tangerine are main characters, but there's also these two characters that are side characters. In the book, if I remember correctly, there are two males that are together, and they get hired for just a quick like switcheroo by Ladybug. Who's what's the name of Ladybug again? What's his name? There's code names, but
Nano. Yeah. So Nano is Ladybug.
Yeah, and I just remembered Ladybug because it's more. I'll admit it's more westernized. I'm kind of used to those things. I'm trying to learn German. I'll get my way around to all the languages. Okay, but Ladybug hires these people to like trade clothes with him so he can blend in more. And even those side characters that you see just like for a quick little bit, you understand their motivations and such, and what their story is and why they accept the money and stuff. Like, it's very well developed. And that's like the summary of the book. Outside of like the actual what to expect in the book, it's the well-developed characters, multiple characters, and how their motivations overlap or butt heads, and what that does to each of the characters.
Yeah. And then you even get a little bit with Maria, who is Nano or the Ladybug's handler.
Yes.
And
we
their
in the book, we
never
see her.
You never see her.
It's only on the phone. And their like banter back and forth is just great.
And then we have two other minor assassins. I say minor. When we get to the movie, you'll see a lot more on them. But the Wolf and the Hornet. And so a little
these are like the legends.
Yes.
Yeah, they are legends only until they come into the book, and then you find real people. But I find it interesting that even their motivations and stuff. It's cool.
Yep. And so a little bit of the plot, so you know why we're bringing up all of these characters. So the White Death's son has been kidnapped. He's a mess, and Tangerine and Lemon are hired to get the son, but also bring back the ransom. So we have this situation going on, and then there's some subterfuge going on, and it's meant to be kind of confusing on what's going on, which is why it's called Bullet Train. So somehow, with there being a briefcase full of money and one of the head guys, the White Death's son, having been kidnapped and is now on this train with Tangerine and Lemon, all of these assassins or mercenaries are converging upon this train, and you're like putting the pieces together as the story goes along. And some of these assassins we only see them briefly, just because they get assassinated. It's called Bullet Train. So all book spoilers on
which I will say Bullet Train is because it is a very fast train.
It is a very fast train.
It's not just because there's assassinations happening.
That's one assassination after another happening on this train. It is actually
not just by bullets. There's swords.
Kind of looking like a bullet train that looks kind of like it's zooming through.
But there's also swords, there's like knives
poison.
and stuff, poison, like so darts and stuff, like I mean, and then just fight scenes of, you know, people like punching and hitting and stuff like that. So it's not just
and these
bullets.
guys can take some lickings and keep on going.
God, it's like
you can
the
tell they've been
story,
in
the
the
Legend
business.
of Blackbeard, how he's like shot like 10 times and still moves.
Yeah. So they come together and you're trying to figure out what's going on at the same time that they're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. Everybody thinks that they have a simple job to do. Tangerine and Lemon are like, simple job to do, get the kid, bring the briefcase. Nano or Ladybug is like, I've got a simple job to do. It can't possibly be this simple. What is going to go wrong? And then you've got the wolf getting on the train. The wolf is there to assassinate someone, and he has a picture of a woman, and that's all we know at the beginning. And then the ladybug ends up accidentally, here we go, the killing starts, accidentally kills the wolf. Didn't even mean to. He's like, just my luck. You know, he's demonstrating I can break your neck, and then the train jolts, and he actually does end up breaking his neck. And he's like, that was an accident. He's got to explain to Maria, I couldn't get off the train, accidentally killed this guy. Here we go. All my bad luck. It's all happening. Lemon and Tangerine have stashed the briefcase, and they're like, well, or the bag. I think that they kept calling it a bag in the book, I think. But so they go get the bag because they realize being separated from it, maybe not a good idea. They come back. The food cart's going down the aisle, and they come back, and the kidnapped kid is now deceased. Teenager kid. He's older when we get to the movie, but he's young. The younger. And so now they've got this situation where they've got the person that they were supposed to rescue is no longer with us, and the briefcase or bag with
all the money
is now gone. So they're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and they keep on getting phone calls of like, "Hey, we need proof
that everything's fine.
Fine." And so they're trying to. Lemon and Tangerine, you start to feel bad for them.
They're like, we were just gonna do an easy job. Where's all this bad luck?
And so that is their goals, and Ladybug's goal is to get the briefcase.
And try to get off the train.
Yeah, and then you learn the prince's goal. Prince's goal seems like one thing, to go after what we would call the father, using his son as a threat to make the father do what he wants to do. And then the son's grandfather, I guess, and everything, so the father's father ends up coming in, because this whole time it may be a bullet train, but it's one of those where there is scheduled stops on the trip, and just like another assassin comes on one, and Lemon and Tangerine, each stop is like trying to
get away with
that things are good when it's not, like,
until they can fix it. They're like, if we can find if we can find the assassin and return the money, the White Death will have someone to punish other than us.
Ladybug's just trying to get off the train, but keeps on getting thwarted. Poor Ladybug. You know, and then you're rooting for the father and everything, because
we'll call him Kamara the dad, Kamara the son, and Kamara the grandpa.
Yeah.
So
Kamara dad, you're rooting for him and everything. The prince, you're trying to figure out, are they just a loose nut, or is there method, like, and it's there's multiple storylines, and
the prince is definitely manipulating. The prince, literally every time he runs into one of these assassins, he manipulates every single one of them. And
absolutely,
every time that because there are a couple of them who think no. So Kamaro the dad knows that the prince didn't kill his son, but he threw him off of a roof. Mm-hmm. And so he's in a coma in the hospital. So he would love to just stick it to this kid, this prince, but he just can't, because the prince is just manipulating everyone. Yes. and it's the kid. He puts on this innocent act, and everybody that he meets Lemon, the Camaros, everyone. He's always asking, "Why is it bad to murder? Why is it bad to kill someone?"
Which makes you think Loose Nut, like, it's just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because
And
that's
he
so
gets
random
disappointed
question.
if it's not a good answer. He's
Yeah,
like,
God, like such a kid sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, keep on asking the question until you get the answer you want.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think who keeping in order who kills who. So the prince also, as an opposite to Ladybug or Nano, is like, I'm really, really lucky. Look at this. Because I'm able to manipulate all these situations, everything just goes my way.
Yeah.
When Lemon, I think Lemon gets poisoned right before Lemon's about to like get the prince, and he's like, "Look how lucky I am, man! I'm so lucky." And it's just like, oh my gosh.
Like the person that's unlucky, you're rooting for. The person that's lucky, you're like, knock them down a few notches.
You're just done with things going their way.
There's a lot of death, a lot of storylines. I don't want to give away like who kills who and stuff, because also here's the other thing, plot twist and stuff, is that some people who die, they're actually not dead.
Yes.
And stuff. So that should help. Like if anybody feels like we've gave spoilers away thus far,
maybe not. Maybe not.
We were just giving idea of motives and everything, which it would be disclosed to you as characters are introduced throughout the movie.
Yep.
So,
and
and books.
Sorry. As we speak about how do we, okay, so I do want to get into Grandma and Grandpa Kimaro. So they enter the picture because we do have the prince who is trying to manipulate everyone. He's trying to manipulate the father Kimaro by calling his parents, and he's like doing all these things and just really just trying to mess with everybody's mind. He's like, your son's in trouble. Oh, I don't know, I shouldn't call you and let you know anything. Well, Prince doesn't know that grandma and Grandpa Kimaro are have been in the business for decades and are
that's such retired. A good plot twist. Why would you say it?
It's spoilers. There's more. There's so much more.
I thought we were gonna give because spoilers later.
No, we're gonna do spoilers for the book only. Book only. In this one.
Yeah.
So because things change in the movie.
True. It is different in the movie. True. That's one thing is that if you read the book, you can still watch the movie because there's enough differences to still be surprised. Like there's 20 minutes after what you think is the ending based off the book in the movie where there's still 20 minutes left. Like
yes, and it's like so. That kind of surprised me. So yeah, we're only talking about the book right here because things do change, and I got to get you to why Grandma and Grandpa get on the train.
Okay.
So, because of this bizarro phone call, they end up on the train, and it's wild because this prince really thinks that he has the upper hand.
And he thinks that everyone around his finger.
Yes, the psychology of the way that he's thinking when he's when he's talking to him, and it's like the first time you see him panic is when they get on the train. He's like shocked. You know?
I didn't expect them to
you see him panic a little bit when he thinks he's about to get killed, but then again, he's like, "Look how lucky I am," or is he? Mm-hmm. But again, he's like, "Nope, my luck." But that was really circumstance. This is the first time where a person or people may have outsmarted him, and he's just like, "Why are y'all here?"
I will say the creativity of how the grandparents know that they can make their move, and everything. I still don't want to give it away, but how the grandparents know they can make their move that it's safe is just like genius. I thought it was great and everything, and such. So
I'm still here. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead. Keep going. But I just thought it was a great, like, thinking outside the box and using the environment to your to your flexibility, not just the character driven. It is very character driven, but they still recognize the environment they're in and use what they can, and using like cell phones, using like even just some of the equipment around them.
What's on the walls, it's so clever. It's so clever, and it's things that the prince hadn't anticipated. And
yes,
I love they're also two of my favorites. Like my favorites are Tangerine and Lemon and Grandma and Grandpa. For sure. How do we wrap this up without spoiling too much? So there will be the minor spoilers because you're just going to get some.
Yeah, we're going to try to leave it so you're still surprised, but like trust me that there is closure. And
is there? There's one part I'm like, do you feel like with big spoiler, minor spoiler with the prince? We're going to talk about the prince. Do you feel like you got closer with the prince?
It's been a while with the book. I'm pretty sure in the book the prince was able to just walk away, right?
That's what I'm wondering. And I'm like, if that's so, this little sociopath, psychopath is going to come back.
But
I feel like he got
No, but didn't he walk away with like a huge warning from the grandparents going,
yes,
we're gonna. Yeah, it's okay. That was closure.
I kind of want to know what that demise would be, because I kind of feel like the grandparents are right. This kid's not going to last long.
Yeah,
or will
and I feel like he won't. I feel like
he's going to mess with the wrong person again.
Yeah, but personally, what it made me feel like is that the grandparents are going to come across him again, going, "We told you." Like,
yep. I feel like he's going to try something. I feel like
he can't not like this. It's
that's
not
what
like
I think. I feel like he can't not. And my theory is that because of what happens with grandson Kimaro and grandparents Kimaro, that he's just going to feel the need to prove himself. Yeah. And that's going to be his undoing.
Yeah. Like, I think he might lay low for a little bit, but he's going to...
I don't see it.
He'll lay low to make a plan. Like, maybe that wasn't his goal to make a plan, but a plan is going to form in his mind. But that's like a future Bullet Train 2 or something like that. Like, but
that's my speculations.
So,
do you have any other thoughts on the book spoilers only before we move on to the movie? Because there's so much, guys, but it's hard to talk about it without disclosing
everything,
what actually happens, and we want to leave some of it to surprise you. So you got some spoilers, but trust me when I say that there's more. There's just more.
Definitely more. And I think, especially motivation wise, that's to me like the biggest thing, where it's like oh, it makes sense. Like once you understand the motivation, and that really helped a lot. But I think the book is worth it. Like the book, I would say 5 out of 5. I might actually read the book again, just because there's so much in it that I'm going to pick up on stuff that I didn't pick up before.
And I will say I read the book, and then I went back over it with audio, and there were things that I was like, oh wait, so I'm really glad that I listened to it again via audio. It was, like I said, I thought that it was going to be a hurdle, and at first it maybe a little bit was, but very quickly, because the chapters are broken up by, you're in fruit, which is Tangerine and Lemon, you're in the prince, and you're in Kimaro, which is either the father or the grandparents. And so you very quickly start getting invested in the characters, which really, really helped. Like, this is not normally a genre that I would pick up, and I was just like, oh, I must know what happens next. And I saw the movie, and I'd seen the movie first. So yeah, it definitely worth a read, especially if this is this type of heist assassins is your thing. I do like heists, but usually, like I said, heist with something else, heist with some fantasy, heist with some magic or magical realism, or heavy romance.
Yeah,
Not just
if you
heist
want
with shooting
Ocean's
and killing
11,
and slashing.
yeah, if you want like Ocean's 11 with assassins,
Yes,
that's what I could see. And
there you go.
think like multiple casinos and multiple characters trying to rob the casinos. So actually more like Ocean's 12, because in Ocean's 12 there was two people trying to steal the egg. Two groups of people trying to steal the egg, and then one overall. So yeah. Either way, I'm just saying multiple strands here.
Yeah. And the only time characterization got to be a bit too much is we were really in the head of the prince, and it felt a little overwhelming to me at times,
Yeah,
which might be right up some other people's wheelhouse. I was like, this kid, oh my
it felt
gosh.
repetitive. Like it came across like if I was beta reading for somebody and they had the prince here so much, I would have been like, I get it. He's a psycho. Can we stop giving examples of times that he went too far and everything?
Yeah. That's my only that
right.
I was getting to be too much. I'm like, okay. Oh,
but I also think it was not just showing how far he's gone, but then the multiple interactions the prince had with a few people prior to the bullet train, which I will say it's bullet train. Most of the action takes on the bullet train, but there's a lot of these flashbacks, by the way. Yes. So just throwing that out there.
Yes. And as we're getting ready to start talking about the movie, so as we move on to the movie, there are a lot of differences. So if you watch the movie and haven't read the book, trust me, it's different enough that you're going to be like, whoa, what is happening here? But familiar enough that you'll be like, oh yeah, that's who that is. Yeah. So you'll catch all the things. All right. So we're moving into movie spoilers only for this next section, and then we're gonna blend it all up. So, what were you on the movie? Were you a dislike, neutral, like? I'm at a like on the movie, and love, love.
Oh. Yeah, Spencer was asking what time, and I was like love, and then I'm shouting, I'm like, Dad will be home later. Yeah. We are not leaving today. We don't move for like another 30 days. It's been asking, like, when are we leaving? Like, it's going to be a while, kid. You got multiple sleeps, multiple weeks. He doesn't have that time concept down yet.
Right.
So, either way. But yes, like to love again, just because there is many nuances, many personality and stuff, and kind of the same reasons why I would want to do the book again and everything.
Yes. And I'm a solid like, more so than I am with the book, where I was a neutral like on the book. With the movie, I'm a solid like. What pushed it down from being a love was that even though we didn't have so much of the sociopath, psychopath, we now had lots and lots of bloody guts, and like hearing it, seeing it, it's very flatter. I'm like, this is a lot. But so that took it down from being something that I love, because I like, it's a lot. And it actually would have been a neutral, but for the comedic scenes, which pulled it back up for me. I love fun comedic scenes, especially when you have good characters to do that, to like make that comedic, to make the comedic parts really, really work. And so the actors who played some of these characters really made it work, to bring that comedy in and kind of neutralize, even in the murder scenes, whether the murders were accidental. There were a lot of accidental murders.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, how can you accidentally murder somebody? But in the movie, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, like they're lethal weapons, and they just twist something differently, or something moves, and they're like, oh, oops. Flipped.
Yes. So yeah, we still have Nano or Ladybug, who is still the perpetrator of a lot of the accidental deaths that happen. um but they happen a little bit differently in the movie. So this is um where again, where I say if you read one and watch the other, you're still gonna get a lot. So we still have in this Ladybug perpetually bad luck guy, played by Brad Pitt, and yeah, Tangerine and Lemon. I like there's so much comedy with these characters, and to me, the chemistry that they played off really worked to make the comedy work. So that's what
Yes.
bumped it back up. But because of all of the splatter, it couldn't be a love. It kept swinging back and forth from neutral to love. Actually,
much like the murder swinging back and forth.
Yeah.
For you, it was a blood splatter range.
Yeah, blood splatter, splatter here, splatter there, and then laughs.
Yeah,
so
which is fine and everything. That's people's there is no such thing of art, and I would say film, books, it's still art that everyone's happy with. Yep. And everything. So, but luckily they included enough of other elements that it didn't completely deter you. Because there was enough of the other stuff that made it better. For me, I'm kind of numb to that stuff. Like, I still go, but I focus on the other stuff.
Yeah. And I'm like, something about seeing it and hearing it. So it's a little, it just gets to be a bit much for me. Where I don't get very cry when people are like, oh, that scene was so sad, it brought me to tears. I'm like, yeah, it was sad. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I tend to be kind of like meh on it, but it was a lot. Like if it had been just a couple scenes, but it's literally almost from beginning to end. And
we'll say, at least with the comedy aspect and the gore and stuff, you still felt sad for when bad things did happen. Like, yeah, you got connected enough to the characters, yeah, and stuff. And seeing it, and I will say, I do like the film version because you got faces and you can see the chemistry a little bit more. I feel like in a film that you got just as connected as you were in the book.
Yeah, and I feel like particularly with Wolf, that I was more connected with Wolf through the movie, but still great characterization for all of the characters in the movie. With the prince, we get the prince's motivation a little bit later on, and all of the motivations made sense for who they were. Still felt a little extreme because again, we've got the prince, who is a female in the movie, and who is using their innocent look to get their way, their childish, youthful, very innocent ways to get what they want and manipulate everybody. And you get to see it working, but you get their motivation, the prince's motivation later on, and you're like, oh, okay, this is how
I did like that. It was like a slow unravel. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. We have Tangerine and Lemon, who are the twins in the movie, who are really just friends and co-workers who just kind of gel together, even though they're the complete opposites. And I love in the movie that people who haven't seen them are like, oh, they're twins, and like Ladybug's like, I'm pretty sure they're not twins, and because he's talking on the phone with Maria, and Maria's like, no, they're twins. You heard about the twins? They're like the baddest dudes, you know. So he's like, to me, them. I'm pretty sure.
I love that they're called the twins when they're obviously not, but it's that found family trope.
Yes,
you know, and you truly see the chemistry between them, and I love it. Like, I love it.
Yeah, and they absolutely love each other. They are brothers for sure. And anyone who has kids are like, oh yeah, these are siblings that bicker and get along, but they know each other so well, and they get along perfectly, and they just work so well together. And I loved when they're like having the argument about how many people. I know it's weird. How many people they killed
on a
and
certain job and stuff, and they're like,
one
they're
was an accident.
walking through it.
One was an accident because a pedestrian came to go. There was a car explosion, so a pedestrian goes to go try to help the person, and the car blows up, and they're like, and he's like, "Oh, I guess we count that." It's like,
Oops.
And so you become again with the movie, you become endeared to these characters that are like, you're like, but they're killers.
Yeah, I with the movie, I did like it. We won't touch differences yet and such, but overall, the movie, like I said before, it's the slow unravel is great. Seeing the approach, like it definitely had this graphic novel filmography vibe to it. Not quite like Sin City, and anything, but just enough. And it was very believable. You got sucked into the world and stuff for that, and that's what I thought that the movie did really well, along with the characters. You believe these characters. I actually think casting was just fine. So other people disagree with that, but
which we're gonna get into in a minute.
Yeah, but I could see it. They executed accordingly, and they had, like, for me, they kept to the core of multiple characters, knowing each character's motivation, and the slow unravel of the connection and their motivations and such. And I'm here for it.
Yeah. What do you think about how they ended with the movie?
I thought it was fine because I did enjoy having a character come on scene and stuff that we hadn't seen yet, and I kind of like that, and I felt it was closure too.
Yes.
That we kind of didn't sort of get in the book, but still bloody and gory though.
It was, and
I did watch that ending scene again.
Yeah, the true Hollywood kind of fashion where they went really big with the ending.
Like it's an action. They made it a true action movie.
Yes, it really was. So it went really, really big, like really big, really cinematic, really the slow motion. So there's one part where everything literally is coming to a head, and there's this slow motion of wreckage and Brad Pitt's character playing Ladybug, and he's just like floating,
flying
through. It's just like you watch every little bit, every little detail. He gets hit in the head with something as he's flying.
Oh my! And I still even cringed at that. I was like, "Ooh." Because in my mind, this thing it's a bullet train that is crashing. So I'm thinking inertia. So the objects inside are wanting to go I'll say 80 miles per hour that the train was going before it slammed into things. So he's flying at 80 miles per hour, and so are the objects that are flying with him and stuff. And I'm just like, that would hurt. So there was a little bit of, scientific disbelief for certain things, such as there was
disbelief a little bit.
Like there was a scene of somebody being outside the train and punching the window to get back in. And I'm like, it's going kind of fast for you to just hold on and punch a window. Yeah. But it was still
dramatic though.
Dramatic, and I still it's not enough to pull me out of the story, honestly, when those things happen, because it's a story. It's to me it is almost a real life anime.
Yes, in a way. And you believe the over exaggerations. I feel like it's like we're watching. You know how someone tells you a story and it's like the spider was this big, but by the time they're telling you this the story. The spider was
Aragog from Harry Potter.
I feel like that's what we're literally watching. Like, how bad could his luck really have been? And you're just like, whoa, his luck was really bad. Look at all the things that are happening. It's terrible.
Similar to a stage show. They exaggerate a lot so the people in the very back of the audience can understand the play. That's kind of the way I see it. But it works. Yeah. It works for this, and I say genre, not just the genre of an assassin whodunit type situation, but also the cinematography that they were going for. It works. Absolutely. I couldn't see them being subtle at all. So,
all right, are you ready to get into full on spoilers and start comparing things?
Yes.
All right, so here we are. We're gonna do spoilers, guys, for both the book and the movie. In this one, we'll try to keep some of the heavy things that you like, the things that we really feel like we want you to see it, to find out. We'll try not to ruin any huge surprises, but we're gonna definitely talk about the ending, and because we're gonna talk about the differences between the endings and how they brought everything from the book into the movie and the characters and a lot of the differences. So here's your warning: if you really don't want the heavy spoilers, this is the part to hold on to until
the cuffs are off. We're letting it out.
Yeah. All right. So book to movie, thoughts on the world building, the characters.
World building first. World building, I think, was very well done. I think there's not much differences. Like, if something was set a certain way, they had it set there. I didn't see much change there. And like I already talked about with the movie, with the cinematography, I took it as like an real life anime. Like, if you had this as an anime cartoon, there would have been no changes really in regards to the over the top, like gore, over the top stuff. Like, it was had that thing. That was the world building. Do you want to comment on world building before I jump into characters?
Just my thoughts on the world building. I know from the book, this part I was able to enjoy a bit more because I don't have to imagine all the blood and guts. But they really showed me all the blood and the blood and guts. When like it was all there, so I felt like they really, with the world building, all of it, with the characters and with the surroundings, you really get pulled in. And it was very colorful and bright for such a story.
Dark movie. So, dark story.
Dark story. They made it colorful and bright, which again I think also helped for someone like me to push this over the hump into the like territory. Because if it had also been really dark and gritty, absent the extra humor, it would have been a neutral to dislike. I'd have been like, okay, this is a lot, without any places to catch your breath or places to laugh. So they really did a good job creating the world, because there were sad scenes, and you could tell in the flashbacks where things were more grayed out at times. But not in the wedding. The wedding was also so we
was bright. It was outside and everything.
It was bright outside, but I think you could tell it was a flashback.
If it was a flashback to a raining scene, it was usually dark, like downtown rain, and where the fluorescent lights of the signs were like the only light.
Yeah. So the flashbacks were all done really well. I just really enjoyed it. So I had a good time with the world building and looking at it and seeing the bullet train. I think they did a really good job.
Characters. You want to jump on that?
Let's jump into characters. So you're gonna find out the characters are not the same, but they're the same, but not the same.
Yes. They're kind of combined a little bit. Like, so one of the first things that I noticed and stuck with me, that like actually stuck with me, and I was questioning whether it was a good idea or not, was instead of grandma and grandpa, it was just grandpa. And I was like, I want grandma too. Like, I want
a grandma
retired
too.
Female that's like, you know, like, I wanted the sass.
So sweet, but she's an assassin.
Yeah. But I will say, the characters, like, their demeanor and stuff, like, I felt that was well done. I loved Lemon and Tangerine. Like, I saw their love and everything. I liked Ladybug. I liked the Hornet, the Wolf. Like, I liked everyone. And I know there was qualms about Joey King. I only remember her name because she's been in so much. Playing the prince. And because they're like, oh, she was either crying or acting innocent. And I'm like, that's what the prince was doing. Exactly. Her being a female has nothing to do with crying or acting innocent. Like, that's what the prince's character does. Like, don't let her being female make you think it's a stigma. Yes. And so luckily Nia and I agree on that. We had a conversation.
We totally agree on that. It's literally one of the first things you notice because I've watched the movie first and then I read the book. The first thing I noticed, I'm like, oh, the prince is actually this kid guy who's maybe 15 or 16 at this point. Started doing the weird
stuff. They definitely aged up the characters a bit, but honestly, I didn't mind. Like, Joey King, she can play young. Like, she
looks very childlike and innocent.
She could have been 17 and stuff. The way they were depicting her, they aged up the kid of the really bad guy, the mafia guy.
He looked like he's in his 20s.
Yeah, he looked like he was in his 20s, but honestly, it doesn't matter. He's dead like the whole movie, anyways.
Yeah.
Though I did
like so many characters.
Yeah. But honestly, everyone else I thought was fine, good. I like the banter. So one thing that Nia and I talked about is, and we didn't want to call it whitewashing, but a westernizing of a Asian book and with Asian characters based off the names, and we westernized it. We made them British, Russian, American. And I know Russian is not quite westernized, but it's
maybe universalized it. Maybe?
Yeah, they did universalize it, but I know I kind of wanted some more Asian representation personally. Instead of just the side characters of the grandpa and the father.
Yeah. And so I was telling Natalie my criteria for when they change up the characters that either diversity or ethnicity. Like either I want it to be completely colorblind casting like they did with Brandy's Cinderella from Rodgers and Hammerstein, or the way that Hamilton is done, where it doesn't even matter. You just go in knowing whoever's going to play whoever. Two, when they make the diversity make sense. So if you change one character, change the whole family, and then add in whatever their ethnicity is, but make it flow and blend nicely with the way that the story is supposed to be.
Which I feel like they kind of did with this, because
I feel like they did that.
The prince's brother, all under the mafia.
They all were. Yeah. So that made it work. And the other way that I'm okay with diversity is if it's a character that it really doesn't matter what their ethnicity is, as long as you don't do anything problematic and you're doing it to add diversity on something that's just usually though it's because it's all white, so you're just adding some diversity. And
like making Tangerine and Lemon completely different ethnicities, I felt strengthened their bond and made me love the found family they had.
Made it to me that one definitely made it better. Whether or not the prince and the White Death, whether they were Russian, they could have been Indian from India or whatever, Middle Eastern. They could have literally have been anything, but making them cohesive made it work for me. So I was okay with the changes to make it. It's weird to call it more diverse, but differently diverse, I guess.
Yes. I they could have done a little bit more, but at the same time, I'm happy with what they did, and with their diversity. And I will say, I mean, this is a Hollywood movie. They know they want it to do well in America and the UK and stuff. So they got
their heavy hitters in there. They got very popular young and upcoming. They were Bad Bunny. They got Brad Pitt to play one of the main characters. Um, just I know that a lot of people might not know the actors who played Tangerine and Lemon, but they did such a great job.
God,
They were
yes.
fantastic. I
Love
really
them.
like. I like them
think
in the book, but I really like them in the movie.
it's like the side character that steals the show. Like in The Witcher, it's the barb that sings. Like he kind of steals the show. Same thing. Lemon and Tangerine stole the show.
They absolutely do.
They were great.
And then you have Camaro and his son, and they're still almost exactly who they are, minus grandma. But they're exactly who they are. But I feel like most of the assassins that worked with the White Death were still Asian, and it's a predominantly Asian setting and surrounding. So it's not
a lot of the extras were Asian, at least, like regarding the mafia of the White Death, like his backup, the the other people on the train and stuff for the most part. Like it was diverse.
And the conductor who is throughout the book, the conductor is also throughout the movie. So who was Hero back in the day?
I know, which was funny because Hiro Nakamura from the show Heroes. Hiro Nakamura had the ability to time travel, which is really funny because in one of the episodes of Heroes, he appeared on a train to get Milo's character to tell him, save the cheerleaders, save the world.
Yeah.
So it's just really funny that now he's in the train. But yeah, there was great talking about cameos. So Channing Tatum had a cameo for a second and here's the interesting thing. So Channing Tatum was on the train reading a book I think it's by Loretta Lane, which, if anybody is familiar, is a kind of, I think it was a flash forward or a hint of the movie The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. But if you remember, Brad Pitt also appeared in that movie.
Yes.
Too. And Sandra Bullock does appear in Bullet Train as well. So like it was just this like beautiful like crossover moment where Channing Tatum's reading a book by Sandra Bullock's character in The Lost City.
Yeah, and it felt like so many people were just like, just put me in, coach. Like even if it was just like one little clip. So you had and one of the differences that is shown is in the movie, he's Nano or Ladybug's not even supposed to be there. He's doing a job that Carter was supposed to be doing.
They said Carver.
I think it's Carver. Yeah, I think you're right, Carver.
But it's one of the just talking about tropes. So it's I'm just the last minute fill-in guy, but I'm getting confused for the guy that I filled in for.
And this guy's coming for me for assassinating his wife, and I didn't do it.
When it wasn't me. It was the other guy.
It wasn't me, literally.
The other guy got a tummy ache, and I'm having to fill in. Also, I remember watching one of the scenes. So there was the scene with Lemon talking to Ladybug, and Lemon saying, yeah, you killed the guy, but Ladybug is thinking about Wolf, not the kid that Lemon is referring to. So one of those other classic tropes of like, we're communicating, but we actually are having a miscommunication on it because we both think the code death or whatever is something different. And I love that trope. Like we're doing this. We're saying the same thing, It makes me kind of think of like Who's on First a little bit.
Yes, very much. So these comedic moments are great. This is when miscommunication works. To move the story along in a funny way, but then like, you're still also
actual miscommunication versus lack of communication. I will always take miscommunication before someone saying, "Oh, I just don't want to talk to him because of this." Like the assumption of a result is why you're not going to talk. I hate that trope, but the talking
like,
and
you killed somebody. And it's like, how did you know I killed them?
Which was actually also done in Good Omens, which we've covered on a previous video, by the way, where when there's the mix-up of the babies, one of the nuns is like, hey, I got the baby. And the other nun thought that the wink meant no, I got you. I'm going to leave the room soon or something like that. Like, it was like there was a miscommunication of what the code was. And it's great. So
it's like we think we're on the same page, but we're not.
Yeah. So we went from characters to tropes and stuff, but like that we find it acceptable. Like it's they could have done worse, they could have done better. Honestly, like there was things done really well, which we both agree Tangerine and Lemon like take the cake. Mm-hmm. When we're talking about execution, I guess that is the tropes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, son.
And with the execution, I feel like they pulled it off. Like they got me interested from beginning to end. And then going back and reading the book afterwards, I'm like, yeah, they definitely pulled this off. So
yeah, and they made enough changes, good changes. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I wanted to speak about the conclusion. So to me, this is one of the changes. So we don't get that full conclusion at the end. We get some conclusion.
Yeah.
But like there are things that are
in the book, they're driving away and they see things happen on the
the police are rushing in, and then they hear about what happened afterwards because they're leaving. Yeah, they're like, we're out of here, done.
Which I kind of like that no one knows we were here type moment, and they just get to leave in the book. I did like that, but in the movie, of course, it's action packed. Let's have a big train crash and have some more gore, but we also get closure with death and everything, and still comedic relief as well.
With Tangerine and Lemon. So
from the book and Lemon driving a truck of oranges.
Of tangerines. Because that tangerine is like, you think you're gonna kill me, but no matter what you do, I'm coming back. He's always saying I'm coming back. No matter, I'm gonna get you no matter what. And so the fact that Lemon miraculously survives, like there's a whole extra ending. Because the poisonings happen and shootings are happening, things happen, and you're like, Lemon, oh, we're gonna miss you. And
I got a little Romeo and Juliet vibes between Tangerine and Lemon, not the love, but the like, oh, you're dead, so
I'm dead, so I'm going.
So I got nothing to live for. I'm gonna die too. Like the whole trope of like
with Tangerine, the way that Tangerine,
the guy that has nothing to lose is the most dangerous type thing. Yep. And it gave me Romeo and Juliet vibes. So
it's so funny. That's when the movie was ending, and you see Maria, who's Sandra Bullock's character, and Ladybug, who's Brad Pitt. When you see them walking away, my first thought was, "Wait, what happened to Lemon?" And then seconds later, Lemon appears.
The writers did really well.
He's still trying to save all the loops. It was amazing. And then when Lemon it really gets the prince, it's just like, yes.
Yeah.
With like just this, or a van or truck full of tangerines.
I know.
And they're just seeing the way it unfolds afterwards. So it's like, that was beautiful. And it's still, I'm saying that was beautiful. They're all killers. They're literally
at the end of the day, they're murderers, okay? I'm just saying, whether it was accidental or not, it's the difference between first degree and manslaughter, honestly.
Absolutely.
But I would read the book again. I would watch the movie again. It's I could see this movie. It's a little early to tell, but I could see this movie being a cult classic, kind of like Pulp Fiction, kind of like Princess Bride, The Labyrinth, like all these other movies. I could see it becoming one, but time will tell.
Yeah, especially with all the little cameos, and I'd be interested to see other smaller characters, what happens with them in the future, and they'd be able to say, back in the day, I was in Bullet Train, I was passenger, or this, that, and the other.
That was the thing.
Ryan Reynolds was funny. It was just funny to see Ryan when he's like, Carver, wait a minute, I'm filling in for Carver, and finding out, then just seeing Ryan Reynolds turn around, and he's the one who murdered the big bad guy's wife. It's just like kind of like what brought all of this to fruition. Is what happened to the guy's wife, and you just see this one little cameo of Ryan Reynolds turning around, and he's Carver, and that's it. That's all.
It was a beautiful closed loop and everything. But I would definitely read and watch again. It's not like an everyday thing, but it's definitely I could see every few years.
I watched it again. It was a few months ago. I saw it when it first came out in streaming. My husband wanted to see it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, sure, Bullet Train." I don't know, and but I wasn't mad that I had to watch it again. I was like, "Oh, I can do that again." And again, even with the movie, the little things that you miss, especially when you're me and you're watching like this, like, oh, oh goodness, because that's the funny thing.
That I like I said, I did cringe. There was a cringe factor.
All right, so let's go on to best and worst changes.
Oh God, I feel like we already talked. It was mostly the characters.
Yeah, mostly the characters. I actually enjoyed the addition of the comedy. I wrote the creating the more dynamic backstory, especially with Wolf. I loved seeing the whole wedding scene because it played out with Wolf, Hornet, Ladybug, Siguru, who is the person who Wolf was originally working for. Like, there was a lot,
and it was like from different perspectives. So you got a new piece of information each flashback, and I definitely like that. They were very good about slowly unfolding what you needed to know in that moment as a viewer. And I'd even say I'm fine with, changing the prince to a female. I was fine with that. I really don't like them cutting grandma. I was fine with the big crash at the end. I was fine with them cutting down the prince's backstory and just
the making of a sociopath kind of.
Yeah, like I was fine with that.
We didn't need that.
To cut that down. But really, my only gripe is I want grandma.
That is the only thing I have for worst change is missing grandma.
I don't know why it's such a big deal. It was such a tiny moment, but I just
grandma assassin. I wanted to see grandma assassin. Yeah.
Yeah, everything else was fine.
Yep, I liked the twins, the change that happened with the twins. Like I said, making them so visibly different added to their
absolutely
the me visually seeing their bond. And the addition of the humor. I'm like, if you're gonna add all that gore, the humor, chef's kiss. So I liked it. I laughed a lot. There were, like, when you see blood splatter and then you've got the Hornet also like bleeding everywhere, and then she's crawling and he's like, you want some water? Can I help you? Do you want a hug? It's just like, oh my gosh, I'm literally,
it gave me flashbacks to Pulp Fiction when they accidentally shoot the guy in the backseat of the car. Very bloody, but their reaction was like, oh, like, this is not how I want to spend my Sunday reaction. Not, oh shoot, I killed someone. It's, well, now I gotta call the cleaner. And
yes, another change was the way that Wolf was killed. It worked. It was still accidental. Nano or Ladybug didn't mean to do it. It literally, this time it was almost more the Wolf's fault that he got killed. Because it was either Nano or the Wolf, and he just picks up the briefcase and the ricochet from the metal briefcase to the.
It's metal. Like Ladybug is the most lucky, unlucky person.
For why he was there.
Yeah. The most lucky, unlucky person is Ladybug. Yes.
So that's what I had for changes. Any final thoughts, Natalie?
I for me, what it comes down to with books and movies and everything, it's just, would you go back and do it again? And for this, yeah. Go back and read it. Go back and watch it. Honestly, I don't have a preference between the two. There's enough differences that they both hold their own. There's not one better than the other because we just named changes in the best and worst. Like,
that's just a few.
Yeah.
There are more.
There are very much more. It's just the things that stuck with us. We're not going through with like a fine-tooth comb here and going, well, on page blah.
On this chapter about fruit, this line. No, we're giving you a general idea of our thoughts on
what stuck with us. And for me, I watched this like, I want to say November or December. Like, it was a while back, and I read it before I watched it, and I haven't touched it since. But this is the stuff that stuck with me all this time. So it's that's my barometer. Is if something's good, is will I set aside time in my life to experience it again? Yes.
And that was to me, like I said, I was the only reason why it was a more neutral on the book, literally was because it's not my genre. But I didn't DNF it. I actually enjoyed it, and I'm like, if this is your genre, you're really gonna like this. And for me, because there's very little of the genres that I like in it. The character driven, I'm like, definitely. I don't know if I would necessarily read it again, but I definitely ended up enjoying reading it for sure.
Yeah.
And the movie,
now,
I watched it again.
So
obviously, had no problem watching the movie again.
Yeah. But when you say you had to push yourself, was it like I'm kind of not liking this, but I'm going to keep reading? Or is it oh my God, I just got to get through this chapter. Maybe after this chapter, it'll be fine.
No, for me, when I say push, it really early on, I got invested because they do a really good job of going from each character. Like, so it starts with, I don't remember who it starts with, but you go from Nano, then you have Kimaru, and then you have the prince. So I really got invested in them and finding out, a little bit more of the story with Kimaru and what happened to his son, and how Kimaru got mixed up with all the kids. So even though when I say it was a struggle going in, it's just because I'm like, oh, I know it's kind of heisty murder, and that's not necessarily what I like to read. So I was like, okay, it's fine. I like the movie, so here we go. And so very quickly, it didn't bother me that much that it was heisty murder, because I like heist anyway. Just
I wonder if you would have felt the same. I wonder if you would have felt the same if you read first and then watched the movie.
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry, this is like what if that will never happen, but
yeah, what if? Because when you get to the prince, like I said, it's very sociopath and very creepy. So I'm like, oh, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like my husband would have convinced me to watch it, because it's right up his alley, and he's the one who wanted to watch it in the first place.
No, I'm saying, would you have finished the book?
I think curiosity might have. In that case, curiosity might have still pushed me to finish. And again, there wasn't. I don't. If I don't have to, I won't picture the blood and guts, so I can take that out of my mind, because I do have hyperphantasia. So if I read it, it's in my head. So I could just not. Even though it's like, oh yeah, there's poisoning happening and stabs happening, and I don't have to picture the blood unless you're like, blood went everywhere, and then I'm like, oh god, now it's in my head.
Yeah. So if there's like a long description, but just saying slice someone's throat and the blood spewed out, like you could just imagine the slice and then
maybe just a trickle.
It's clean.
Yeah, nice clean cut. It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah.
So yeah, I think I might have still finished it, but it's would I have started it? You know what I mean? In the first place, because that was the biggest hurdle. It's like, oh, I'd rather read this fantasy book over here, or I'd rather read this rom-com. So that mostly was the hurdle, is would I have started it in the first place? But once, like I said, once I got to know Nano and Kimaru, I became quickly invested in them, and then just the craziness of the prince.
It was almost like a comedy of errors, I feel like.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like just this like domino effect of like, oh my god. So
yeah. So,
but yeah, there's our thoughts of Bullet Train, the book and the movie. Totally worth it. It's high up there for us.
Yeah.
And now
good movie. I had no problem watching it again. I was like, yep, hopping right in. Here it goes. My husband's like, oh, we're watching that again. I was like, yeah, you want to,
Yep.
So yeah.
Upcoming.
Upcoming in May, we have Crazy Rich Asians. That's our last light one. It's just a book and a movie.
Yep.
That's the last light
it
one
is a
before the
series
heavy
of
hitter
books,
summer.
and I've read the whole series.
Go, Natalie.
Yeah, I love the series. It's the comedy aspect for me and stuff like that. But if you like the first bit, you'll probably like the future ones. For June, Shadow and Bone. We're talking 2 seasons here.
Yeah.
What books do we need to read?
Okay, so I just watched season 2, and I'm like, I need to talk to Sarah, but because I haven't reread Shadow and Bone, but I'm like, did this go further than just book 2?
Yeah.
I feel like it did. I'm like, or maybe it's just because I read all 3 together that I'm like, am I blending when things happen?
So far, the only
like
thing I've read was City of Crows. I think that's right. Crown. What is the Crows one?
The Crows are Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom.
Six of Crows. That's what I read. Okay. So I read Six of Crows. I haven't read anything else. So I'm kind of like, y'all tell me what to read.
Yeah, I'm going to talk with Zara because I need to go back through because
For anyone who doesn't know, we're talking about Zara Hoffman. She is very knowledgeable with this stuff.
Yes. So I'm thinking that we're going to get more of what the Six of Crows story actually is because I'm like, this all feels really, really familiar.
That I would find enjoyable since I've read that one. So
yeah, because
but there is other books.
Season, with the first season, they just more like introduced you to who the Crows were. But I feel like with season 2, I think that they actually started blending them together, even though Six of Crows technically in the books happens after Shadow and Bone. So I'm going to go back through because I don't want to give too much away for people who actually want to read it, but I feel like some of the things that were actually in Six of Crows may have been actually what was in season 2. So I feel like they put a lot in season 2.
Well, if there was a heist in season 2 to get someone out of a prison, then yes.
Yeah. So
that's Six of Crows. All right. So for season 1, figuring out what to read for that one.
And stuff about what that's going on with the other crows and the facility that that they run. So I'm like, I feel like I read this.
And there is another book. Shadow and Bone is actually a multiple series. So it's a duology of Six of Crows, and then one other follows that. And then Shadow and Bone itself is like a trilogy. And the Shadow and Bone show on Netflix is just like, I don't know what they're doing, but they're pulling the books in and converting them to it. But either way.
So I feel like if you read Crooked Kingdom, or not Crooked Kingdom, Six of Crows, so you can get to know the crows, and it's probably what I'm seeing in season 2. I think if you read that, read the first 2 books of Shadow and Bone, you should be good. But I'm thinking that it's going a little bit into the 3rd book. But again, I read them all together, so it all blends to me.
Yeah.
But I feel like it feels like we went further, but I can't be sure yet. So just know.
But we will cover season 1 and season 2.
Yes. As much well, Zara and I have seen all of it, so we'll definitely so as long as you don't mind spoilers for wherever the stopping point is. But and then
another one,
big hitter,
July and August, Game of Thrones. We are covering books 1 through 3 in July, which covers seasons 1 through 4. And then for August, it is the rest of the season, so all the way to season 8. So 5 to 8, which will cover books 4 and 5 because we don't have more than that.
Yeah. And I always get them mixed up to what was seasons and what was the books. I'm like, how many books were there? How many seasons were there? But half
5 books.
We were splitting it in half.
And I will say there's a lot of differences. I did recognize that but I will keep my mouth shut until we get there.
And I've seen this. I've seen the series all the way through, and I was one of those ones. I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of want to read this book, but there is no final finality. So I was like, I'm not reading this until we get the last book or two, because I heard it might be 2 more books. I'm like, what are you doing? And here we go. I'm diving in. I'm gonna be
might as well just be as miserable as the rest of us. I'm just kidding.
I'll join you guys over there, yeah. And something that you're
listen.
You're
my only gripe
is I'm never gonna get this. Why? I don't know why.
My only gripe is cinematography, dark cinematography. That's my only gripe. Everything else, I'm like, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff, but anyway, so that is upcoming. Stay tuned. It's always going to be on Nia's channel that we're doing Scripting the Book, but it's always on Sunday as well. We just don't have it listed on which Sunday here, just because sometimes things change, so we like the flexibility. But the month is going to stay. So
and it'll most likely be one of the middle 2 weekends, one of the middle 2 Sundays, most likely. We just try to figure out which one's going to work best.
Yeah, trying not to hit Mother's Day or Father's Day, accordingly. Like, don't worry, stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram as well, and you'll get it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm Natalie Locke. My links are down below. I already gave my intro. I'm a mom, full-time employee, and I decided to throw writing in because the other 2 didn't impede my sleep enough. And right now I am on a big flash fiction kick of editing flash fiction, as well as getting inspiration of flash fiction from anywhere and anything. Like sticking my hand in the junk drawer and seeing what I pull out, and that becomes my prompt. So very random stuff, just to help everyone get to exercise their brain enough to where hopefully we don't stare at a blank page and not know what to write.
Yes. And I'm Nia, the Vixen of Fiction. This is my channel. I stream here on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. with Night Write. I also stream on Twitch on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at noon, and late nights on Sundays after 8:30. So you can come find me there. I host this. I host AuthorTubers React. And yeah, I'm writing stuff.
4 kids, Loki mom, fitness instructor.
All those things.
She does it all.
So come join the chaos. It's all good. Thank you guys so much for coming and joining us. If you're watching on the replay, I will have it marked so that you can take your spoilers as you want them or don't want them, and enjoy that. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.